I want you to think about the last time you walked into a room, any room. It could be a boardroom, it could be a networking event, it could be a chapter sorority meeting, it could even be going to brunch with friends. How did you feel on the inside when you walked into the room? Now I want you to ask yourself another question. Did the room feel how you felt? Because sometimes the answer is no. And this is where a disconnect happens, or what I like to call the presence gap. And that is the space between how you feel and how the room feels. And 9 times out of 10, what you are communicating in that presence gap is costing you. So I want to use this example. Someone walks into the room with 15 plus years of experience, and they know exactly what they are talking about. They can talk about their subject and say it's finance. We'll use that for an example. And they can talk about finance inside and out, up and down, and everything in between. But when they walk into a room to have a discussion or just have a discussion with the individual that they're speaking to doesn't connect. And this connection, people aren't going to say, hey, you did an amazing presentation today, but something still felt kind of, I don't know, off. And they can't even put their finger on it, but they know something felt off. You probably didn't feel off, or the individual didn't feel off because they felt good on the inside. But how they felt on the inside, it wasn't connecting to the room, which at that point, they've probably, because they've already made a decision, they've probably already checked out and on to the next, or thinking about the next person coming in. And this is where the presence gap takes place. Now, this has nothing to do with fashion at all. It's a fact of how people perceive you when they read you, when you come or take up any space or you're in a room. And this is literally the first introduction they have of you after your resume or after your notes or your bio, because they haven't seen you yet, is your visual cue. And this is where what you feel you're communicating visually, and most of you don't know that you're communicating visually, this is where the disconnect happens. And you have no idea that this is actually going on when it comes to your visual communication. Why does this gap even exist in the first place? Now, it's not because you don't care, because you do. But I like to say that it's because you work so hard on the front end with your career, the presentation, the business you're building, or even if you're an executive support staff and you're helping your executive with whatever it is, your visual communication takes a back seat if you even think about it at all. And this is where and why it happens, because you are saying one thing while your visual communication is saying another. And the two of these have to intersect and meet to bring the full package together. And I don't want you to think about, oh my gosh, I'm dressing bad or poorly. No, that's not it at all. I think it's something because we have never been taught this. We have always been taught to assimilate into what everything else was going on. And if you're in my age grade range, say Gen X, I'm not Gen Z, I'm Gen X. We were always taught to dress and look a certain way. So everybody looked the same. But that's no longer the case anymore. And even then, it didn't work for us at all, because they thought that, well, you know what? If you wear this black suit, if you wear a white blouse, if you wear some pumps and you wear the stockings and you wear your hair pulled back like this and you do X, Y, and Z, that either made us extremely stiff or it actually took away from us, because actuality, it was supposed to take away from the visualness of us and focus more on the work, But what they failed to realize then, and even sometimes now with the change of how we dress and show up for work, I think now it's even going further, moving further and further apart because people are not, we're still being taught a very generic way. And we need to come up into the 21st century when it comes to dressing and bringing both your presentation and your presentation together to make one cohesive package, which is also known as your personal brand. So the gap shows up in a few ways. One, people dress for comfort or convenience. They're not really thinking about what is they're going to communicate for the day. So this, it looks like getting up and just throwing the first thing on, even if something as simple as you're rolling out of bed and you don't have time to figure out what to wear. So you're going to grab for the first thing that you could see or out the door. It could even be you have a uniform that you wear every day that's also become comfortable. Uniforms, they can work, but you have to kind of refix them or reformat them. And this goes into you haven't updated your look in a very long time. So your look today, and we'll go back to the uniform example. Say the uniform was useful for you, say 2 or 3 years ago. But now because you're walking into new spaces and places, it's communicating what you had to do 3 or 4 years ago, but not who and where you are currently right now in your role, whether you are an executive, executive support, or even, and most importantly, an entrepreneur, because all of this takes place. Remember, people see you visually first. So if you haven't updated your wardrobe, and this does not mean you have to go get a whole new closet full of clothes. No. This is very important for you to do when you're thinking about the presence gap and how it could be affecting your visual communication. Another one is that you show up inconsistent with how you dress. There are days that you are great, you are fabulous, you are walking out the door, and how you feel on the inside matches the outside for your visual communication. Then there are other days it's like, not so much, because then you may say, go back to dressing for comfort. And that's where and how the inconsistency can come in for an example. So you might wake up one day on a Monday, oh, I'm doing X, Y, and Z. And then by the end of the week, you're sort of like, oh, I don't feel like putting all that on and doing the most. So I'm just going to wear this. That's how inconsistency comes into play with the presence gap. But the last one, I believe, is the root of all of them. And this is the thing that many of you don't know, that you are visually communicating to other people. But we do know that because we look at other people the same way. So I want you to remember, when you're meeting people, seeing people, they're visually communicating to you and you're basing your thoughts about who they are off of that. So people are doing the same thing. And one of the things that people always say, and this was something that was always brought up, you have two people with the same resume, same amount of experience, same X, Y, and Z. We have to figure out who we're going to hire, or who we are going to give the investment to, the money to, for someone building their business. The last important thing they have is your visual communication. And that can sometimes be a deciding factor in all aspects, not just your career or your business, but in all aspects. So we always have to make sure what we are communicating visually is consistent. And you have worked so hard on your craft and building what you're building that you also deserve and need to build the visual communication piece as well. Because sometimes that visual communication literally just has to catch up to your goals that you've accomplished and the hard work that you've always put on the front end. And the most important thing I want you to know is this, and I say this all the time: how you communicate visually is the one thing that you always control. You get to dictate how people see you and perceive you. And once you understand that you are in control of that, whether they like what you're visually communicating or not, you control that. It's the only thing that you can control. And once you know how to master that and use this as your secret weapon, your silent partner, your closet is the biggest silent partner that you have. You will have mastered bringing everything together into one cohesive package. And that right there is where the magic can happen. So, the first part in bridging the gap and closing the gap is you have to get honest about your current story and who you are. This has nothing to do with clothes, nothing at all. And I don't want you to think that the first thing you have to do is go out and buy new clothes, buy a new wardrobe, or everything, or start tossing everything. That will come later, but I need you to get comfortable with your story and figure that out first. That is the first step. So I want you to pull out your phone. This is a simple experiment that you can do. I want you to take a photo of yourself in the mirror in a regular outfit that you would wear to work or going into the office, or if you're an entrepreneur. I just want you to put those on and take a photo. I want you to see yourself through somebody else's eyes, not your eyes, but I want you to begin to think about what do people really see? Not what I see, not what you see, but what do people see when they see me dressed a certain way? I don't want you to put on your Sunday best. I don't want you to put on your power suit or anything like that, or your favorite. No. What do you wear when you go to work? And the best way to take this photo is probably just take it when you're getting dressed one day for work and snap a photo either before you leave, sometime throughout the day, just snap the photo. What does your communication say? And once you begin to see yourself in a different way, in a different light, now you're going to be able to say, oh, you know what? Something as simple as my clothes are wrinkled, or my white button down is a little dull, or oh, this has fretted edges on my pants. These are the small things that you'll see that make a huge difference when you're trying to bridge the gap and close the gap to give your visual communication a little rehab or kind of elevate it just a little bit. Next, I want you to come into your closet and I want you to identify the visual inconsistencies. Now, many of you have a few great outfits and a closet full of things that don't quite look right or feel right. That also should give you a cue that your presence gap is off, or depending on how far it is. Now, the issue has nothing to do with you having style, but it's more that it's inconsistent. So some days your message is clear, some days that it's not. And with inconsistency, it creates doubt. I'll use an example for me. Yes, I am a style coach. Yes, I know what I'm talking about. But guess what? Because I'm not consistent with showing up on social media, on YouTube, or on Instagram, or in my newsletters, people begin to doubt my expertise. And I have to get better with being consistent with it. It's the same thing with your wardrobe and how you get dressed. So how do you fix that? I'm glad you asked. You fix that by building a strong and solid foundation. And I will, of course, go through later on. I'll have videos just for these topics, but I just want to give you an overview. One, you want to throw out those generic essentials checklist. And you need to figure out what essentials are essential to you when it comes to building out and building a solid foundation for your wardrobe. So for me, for example, it might be cardigans are an essential for me. Jewelry, like everyday jewelry that I can wear, is essential for me. My hair might be essential for me. The color might be an essential for me. What is essential to you? And you can have about 10 things that are essential. It could be a combination of clothes, accessories, even fragrances, all of that in between. Next, and I know you guys hear this a lot, but trust me, it works. Having a small capsule wardrobe, about 15% of your closet should be the capsule wardrobe. This literally fills the gap and will bring everything together. So the clothes that you have in your closet, plus your essentials, plus then in the middle you have the gap filler for this, the bridge, which is the capsule wardrobe, to bring everything together and make it a cohesive fit. Just with these two things alone, now you'll have enough to play around with what you currently have in your closet. And of course, in time, you'll be able to figure out what you need to buy, what you need to get rid of. But starting with a solid foundation will help you with beginning to build the present gap, both when people see you visually and when you are building upon and creating your style and your personal style. All of this will come together and your closet will be something that supports you. And lastly, think about where you're going, not where you've been. If you are in the messy middle like me, this can be kind of difficult, but this is where the solid foundation that I just talked about will help. You want to think about where you are going, not just in career wise, but even personally as well, because career and personal, all of this kind of meshes together, intertwines together at some point. So think about where you are going. Your wardrobe should reflect that and it should support that. That's why your closet space is your secret partner and it's a mirror. So, where are you going? I want you to think about that. When you are able to think about that, you'll begin to think about how you dress and how you communicate visually completely different. Now, this does not mean go out and spend millions and hundreds and $11. It just means that now you just have to become intentional about what it is you have, what it is you buy, and what it is you buy. So it'll mean asking something like, does what I'm wearing communicate the level that I am actually operating at? Some of us stay hidden because of our clothes, not because of our knowledge, but more so because of how we dress hides us and shrinks us. That is a comfortable space. It is hard, trust me, I know, because I am currently in the messy middle. It is hard to get out of that. That is why you start with the small things first. Even something as simple as an overhaul of your closet can actually be overwhelming to you, and you get frustrated, and you're going to go right back to how you were dressing before because it was a little bit easier. But stepping out of your comfort zone when it comes to dressing is actually the key to unlocking a whole nother level and a whole nother world just for you. And just by how you're visually communicating, people will see you differently. They will respond to you differently. They will look at you differently. And that's okay because we want to see that. We want people to see us how we see ourselves. And I always say this all the time. The wardrobe and the style that you want is locked away in your head. You think about it all the time, but you haven't bought it out yet. So that how you should be dressing at this particular season in your life, it's already there. You just have to take control and take a chance and start to bring it to life. So I want you to remember something. The presence gap is real. It's really quiet and it's invisible to you, but it's not invisible to everyone around you. It can actually be very loud to them. And it has absolutely nothing to do with how much you know, how hard you work, or how ready you are. It's just simply a disconnect between what's happening on the inside and what's being communicated on the outside. And we have to bring them together. And the great news is, this is absolutely fixable. It's probably one of the easiest things once you get everything down. It's easy to fix. You don't need to do a total overhaul. You don't need to spend a fortune like many people, many stylists will potentially have you do. You just need to get clear on the story you're telling and making sure that it is the right one for you. Not what anybody else thinks your story should be visually, but what is the story for you that you want to communicate to others. Because guess what? You've already done the hard work. You have built the expertise over years of hard work, and you've put the time in it. So now it is time to put that time into you. And you deserve to walk into every room looking like exactly who you are. And if you are ready to build a closet that supports you, I invite you to click the link in the description of this video to talk about the foundation edit. With the foundation edit, we will take the style that you have locked in your mind and begin to bring it to life, and also begin to lay the foundation for that style so that you can show up exactly as who you are. So be sure to click the link in the description of this video. So with all of that being said, I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Stay healthy, stay safe, and as always, I will see you in the next video.